What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another Division 2 video. Today I decided we were gonna do something slightly different and just kind of discuss the things I wish I would have learned before hitting shade level 1000. Now I've recently hit shade level 1000. I'm actually at 1065. It's been a few days and I've just been gathering my thoughts, trying to think to myself or realizing things I wish I would have done or known before. So the first thing we're gonna actually start off with is getting to shade level 1000. It took me quite a long time because I would just do a lot of like countdown farming, a lot of summit farming. I found myself doing a lot of things that didn't give me a lot of XP in a short amount of time. So the best way to actually get a lot of XP in the shortest amount of time would be just open world activities, specifically public executions. They give you the most XP and they are fairly quick to go over. I'm actually going to be showing you some footage of a moment where I had the entire area, as you can see, of just public executions, and I just rode through it, and within, I want to say, less than 10 minutes I went up about 5 shade levels. So it really wasn't too bad. I would say more or less around that time frame on that many shade levels. But the best way not only is to do public executions, but is your difficulty and directives. Right now I have my open world difficulty on heroic. If I was farming for shade levels, I would probably throw on a few directives, because as you can see, with every directive you put on, you get an increased percentage of XP. So if I was to put, let's say, every directive on, my public executions right now are about 230,000 XP per activity. But now when you look at it with added directives, I get 518,000 XP per public execution. So the hardest difficulty you can manage with directives would definitely be your way of just getting to shade level 1000. Now the next part will be builds. I found myself in the beginning using my typical Hunter's Fury. It was my first build that I made, and I found myself using it for everything. I had focused on nothing else, and the game got extremely boring and I stopped playing it. One thing I did learn is making new builds makes the game feel fresh. It gives you new ways to play it. It gives you new ways to just approach every activity, every mission, everything there is to do in the game. Making a new build completely changes everything. So I would definitely recommend, if you find yourself getting a little bored, make a new build. It'll liven the game up a bit for you, and it won't seem so boring. Now, some people might think to themselves, what build should I use? I understand that the build making can be a bit complicated in the game, but I would just, let's say if you're not sure what build should I make, I would go with a Hunter's Fury. A Heartbreaker. A Heartbreaker gives you a decent amount of damage, you get a decent amount of survivability. This is the one I've been toying around with. I actually had a Memento on here before, but and honestly, I've gone through every single type of activity there is to do aside from incursions and raids with the Heartbreaker build. But you're not even going to worry about these things most likely until you are a decent shade level anyway, incursions and raids. Now with that being said, let's talk about just builds in general. Like I was saying, different builds not only keep the game fresh, but different builds will be required depending on what you're doing. For example, I'm probably not going to use my rigor build when running the new raid or incursion or anything that's out. It's just not going to work. The enemies, I'm not going to do enough damage. My abilities probably won't do enough just for the team in general. It just isn't beneficial. So depending on what you're doing, I would do some research. Don't be afraid to jump on YouTube. Don't be afraid to jump on Google. Just find what's a decent build you can to just run, let's say, activities, or run heroic strongholds, or any other activities there is to do. Now, going to the next thing, which is something I've only recently like opened my eyes to, is your expertise. Now, a lot of people may not know how this works, so we'll quickly go through it. Whenever you unlock a piece of gear, depending on the, I guess you could say, where it is. As you can see, every weapon class is separated. You have your named and exotic stuff here, your skills here, your brand sets, and then your gear sets. Now, you need to kind of make them proficient, which means getting some experience and essentially just learning how to use them is what it is. I would say that was the goal. So once you make something proficient by using it and you kind of bringing it up levels similar to what your agent is, you kind of have your levels 1 to 40 during the main game, and then after the game you have your shade levels where you can go up to 1,000, right? It's very similar with the weapons. You use them, bring them proficient to level 10, and then from there you can upgrade them depending on your expertise level. So as you can see here, my Kingbreaker is a 10. I had to use it, brought my proficiency, as you can see on the top right, it says rank 10. It started at level 40, which was what you were at endgame, and now it's kind of like, after endgame, similar to your agent. Now, the higher the expertise, the more of a benefit you get for weapons. As you can see, weapons are weapon damage. Armor is obviously armor. Unfortunately, it doesn't work where if it's a yellow core, you somehow get like a, skill bonus. Like, no, it'll just be more armor. And your skills will be dependent on what the skill does. Might be wondering, wow, there's a lot of weapons, a lot of pieces of armor. I need to not only wear all these items, use these items and bringing up to a level 10, but then I need to level them up again after that. Well, luckily, as you can see here, there's a donate all junk. Whenever you get gear and you may not want it, then it's maybe something you don't need, just go to that item and instead of dismantling it, just mark it as junk. Right? Once you mark it as junk, you come to the bench, go to expertise, you hold square. It'll donate toward that item and bring up its proficiency. So for example, if I would have a backfire and I donated that backfire, which I most definitely wouldn't, don't donate exotics, dismantle them. But if I would have donated it, I would have then had it at a proficiency rank 1. You pretty much need 2 weapons. I'm not sure if the same is for exotics, but I know for everything else, for every 2 weapons, it brought it up 1 level. So as you can imagine, it's not too hard to do that. Now, the quickest and easiest way I've learned, which I wish I would have done this before shade level 1,000, I most likely would have been a much higher expertise level. But farming countdown, targeting whatever specific item I want to bring up in proficiency level. And once I was done, I mark everything as junk and donate it. That has helped me pretty much do most of this. I have maxed out most of the proficiency on these weapons and even gear just by donating. Now, one thing I wish I would have known is there is nothing you can donate to bring up your skills. Your skills need to be used. So you can have one build that you use religiously and just target everything else and donate, and over time you will eventually have your expertise level climbing. With that being said, you cannot do that with skills again. So you need to use your skills to bring up your proficiency. I want to really emphasize that because unfortunately, as you can see, all my brand sets are done, I think, except for one. All my gear sets are done except for one. Most of my weapons are, aside from named and exotics, every weapon that is not a named or an exotic is done. The only thing I have is skills that, as you can see, almost nothing is done compared to every other category. So definitely just use skills, even if it's not your playstyle, just to get that proficiency up and get it out of the way. So once you're making builds that you're comfortable with and fit your playstyle and what you enjoy, you don't have to worry about doing it later. Now, while we're here in the recalibration station, let's talk about optimization really quick. One thing I did in the beginning is I would find pieces of gear that I thought were pretty good. A good example will be on my Hunter's Fury build, and it would be my chest piece. As you can see, I optimized the core and one of the attributes and recalibrated the other attribute. Those attributes were horrendous. It costed me so much resources to max this out that I wish I would have just targeted chess pieces, or specifically targeted this specific brand set, and just grinded some countdown for it, and maybe got a double crit roll that was really good, and all I had to do was recalibrate the armor to max or something like that. It costed so much materials that it kind of, I would say, it'll hold you back on doing other things if you're just grabbing gear where the attributes are halfway and optimizing them. Just try to grind to have at least one max attribute so that you can just go to the station and then recalibrate the other one max. Like, save the resources, grind as much as you can to save resources, because optimization is very, very expensive. And unfortunately, a lot of the same resources it takes to optimize, it also takes to bring up your expertise level and increase your weapon damage on weapons, and you increase your armor on your armor. Now, one other thing I wish I would have known is PvP. Don't be afraid of it. PvP is not as bad as some people might think. I thought it was horrendous at first. I wasn't a fan. I thought people were always using cheesy builds. People were just too good. My level wasn't high enough. I'm gonna get destroyed at what I'm doing. But it's not really like that. As you can see here in the gameplay that I'm actually currently showing you, I just randomly was like, let me try some conflict. This was actually recently. Jumped into conflict, and right in the first game, got a W. Did pretty good. I didn't even make a build for PvP. I just kind of used my striker build that I would normally use for incursions. Just took out my protection to elites, added some more crit damage. And I guess you could say I had a pretty decent build for PvP. I feel like you can never go wrong with striker. But as you can see, we won. We did pretty good. And it was actually a really fun time. I did have a match just after that where it was the complete opposite. We got slaughtered, but you know, that's PvP. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. Now for the Dark Zone, I know, same thing. A lot of people are not fans of the Dark Zone. You might get hunted by 4 rogue agents and you're out there by yourself and you're frustrated because you want some Dark Zone gear. Just keep giving it a shot. As you can see here in this gameplay, I went and I decided to just jump in the Dark Zone by myself. I wanted to see if I can get anything good. I wanted to see if I can get any Dark Zone exclusive name items. Maybe I can get an exotic from something. And I jump into a little open area to do an activity. And boom, a pestilence just pulls up exotic. And I was so excited. And I thought to myself, man, I hope I can get this out of here because this is the Dark Zone. And next thing you know, as you can see, I'm calling the helicopter and I'm extracting it, and this was just out of a whim. I decided to just randomly jump into the Dark Zone. As you can see, it happens. You can go into a Dark Zone where you have no one, and you can jump into a Dark Zone where there are people, but they're probably doing the same thing as you. They want to be left alone. They want to just try to grind and find some gear. Just give it a shot. Yes, you might be disappointed sometimes, but you never know. You might have that lucky moment. You jump in there and you find an eagle bearer. Now, the very last thing I wish I would have known, because I feel like most of this comes together when it comes to build making, when it comes to expertise and proficiency, and having a decent build for PvP as well, just to benefit off PvP, which is countdown. Countdown is the king of this game. Countdown is the best way to just farm for anything in regards to weapons, gear, and even exotics. Because with Countdown, you can target your loot, and not only can you target your loot and get the loot specifically that you're looking for, whether it be assault rifles, a certain brand said, mods for skills, whatever it is you need. You can not only target for those specific items, but you even get your countdown credits where you can buy caches. You can buy named caches, you can buy exotic caches, you can buy the seasonal caches, and there's even named items you can purchase. And a lot of the times there are some really, really good named items that are worth purchasing in the Countdown vendor. And you usually only have to do maybe one run on challenging, and you can get yourself one named item guaranteed as long as you extract. It's the number one thing. You need to extract, or else you won't get many Countdown credits. Now, with that being said, talking about same thing with how activities give you the most amount of XP in the shortest amount of time, I would say the same is for Countdown when it comes to loot. I feel like you can get the most amount of loot in the shortest amount of time by running Countdown. So not only can you farm for the gear you're looking for, but like I was saying, now you can easily bring up your expertise and proficiency levels, your proficiency levels for gear and weapons. With that big plus is Countdown, because you're with 8 people, you can use those skills you don't generally use, that you wouldn't use in PvE or by yourself. You can use those in Countdown because you have your team fighting around you. You're gaining XP as you're fighting and they're fighting, so those skills will climb up fairly quick. I've recently brought a few skills up that I never use, and I only did it within, like, let's say 3-4 Countdown runs, and I think I had like my remote pulse max to a 10. I just threw it in there whenever my teammates were killing people, and it was very nice XP. Now, the last and final thing about Countdown, which is really good, is you will bump into people that are shade level 20 or shade level 20,000. Now, the cool thing about this is, one, not only can you make friends that will help you in the game, maybe farm legendary missions or incursions, raids, whatever it is, they can help you find gear, but you can even gain inspiration for builds. If you're kind of like me and you don't want to jump on YouTube and copy and paste people's builds and kind of get to know the building process yourself and get to learn it, Countdown is a good way to take inspiration. I like to look at people in my group, see what kind of builds they're running, and then I can actively see how they're doing in Countdown and see, man, if that build looks fun, if it looks like something I try, or if I feel like, it's just not worth it at all. But Countdown is 100% king, and this is everything I wish I would have known before hitting shade level 1000. It isn't much, it isn't crazy, but I think these are all very important things because I'm unfortunately, after shade level 1000, just now learning a lot of this because I was just focusing on, the things I was most comfortable with and not learning. So please, agents, enjoy your builds, enjoy your grind. If you have anything that you would have added to this video, please comment down below. If I agree, if I feel like there was something I missed and you pointed out, I will 100% be pinning your comment below. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and I will see you all on the next one.